Over again, Congressman Adam Schiff. He's a Democrat from California who serves on the House Permanent Select Intelligence Committee as well as on the Benghazi Committee, and he is a Hillary Clinton supporter. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Carol.
So you heard what Keon Law said. In this latest Quinnipiac poll that came out this morning, it shows only 4% of Republicans would vote for Hillary Clinton. 4% of Democrats would vote for Donald Trump. So it's not so promising, is it, that so many Republicans are ready to vote for Hillary Clinton?
I think actually over time you're going to see more and more Republicans do exactly that and say exactly that, as you indicated in the story before. There are grave concerns, and I talk to Republicans, very mainstream, solid, lifelong Republicans who do not believe that Donald Trump is fit to be president of the United States, who recoil at the idea that he could be the leader of the free world. And I think much as was indicated, people may not be able to be willing to say that publicly, these longstanding, true blue Republicans, but many are saying it privately, and I think many will go to the voting booth and privately cast their votes for Secretary Clinton, because the idea of this con man essentially becoming president of the United States is unthinkable. And I think we got just another indication this week just how unelectable he ought to be, and that is when the whole Trump story came out and the disclosure of these documents about what a fraud scheme this Trump University was, Trump's reaction was to attack the judge in the case and say that, at least in his part of the reason why the judge ruled the way he did in disclosing these documents was because of what Trump believed to be his Mexican heritage. That is so unsuitable for someone running for president.
All of this doesn't seem to matter to his supporters, right? Because if you delve deeper into this Quinnipiac poll and you look at independent voters, 36% of independents say they would vote for Donald Trump if the election were held today. 29% of independents say they would vote for Hillary Clinton. So Donald Trump has struck a chord, and like it or not, these things about Donald Trump don't bother them.
Well, there is certainly a base of people that Donald Trump has as supporters that he has appealed to, frankly, their baser instincts, and they are for him come hell or high water. But you're also seeing, I think, Donald Trump shed support, and I think that those polls that have it close between Secretary Clinton and Donald Trump right now are more a reflection of the fact that the Democratic primary is not over, and there's still a great many people in the Democratic primary process who are supporting Senator Sanders. And so Secretary Clinton has not consolidated that support. I think that will happen after the convention. So I think those polls will change quite substantially. But, you know, the fact that, week after week.
I just want to point out something else in this Quinnipiac poll, because it's a confounding poll. Confounding because it's so contradictory. And I'll give you an example. When voters are asked about who would respond more effectively to an international crisis, 53% say Hillary Clinton. But when they're asked who was most effective at fighting ISIS, the numbers flip. More say Trump would be effective. That's confounding, and why is it? Could it be that many Americans don't really buy into President Obama's plan to fight ISIS, and they think Hillary Clinton will just continue that blueprint?
You know, I think people are conflicted, and I think many people are more than capable of holding conflicting positions at the same time. So, yes, you're right. It is confounding.
Why wouldn't most voters say, if they think Hillary Clinton is great on international crises, why wouldn't they say, yep, she could most effectively fight ISIS? Why are they choosing Donald Trump over her on that very important issue?
Well, I think ultimately they're not going to choose Donald Trump over Secretary Clinton on that issue. But, you know, right now I think people are responding viscerally. They see the horror that ISIS is. They want it stopped. They want it stopped right now. And Donald Trump gives a simplistic answer about how he is going to, to use Ted Cruz's words, but I think they're shared carpet bomb ISIS, kill the family members of ISIS, bring back waterboarding. And there is a certain element that argument appeals to, that very superficial, visceral argument. But I think that is not going to...
They like his tough talk against ISIS. And Hillary Clinton, I know, if you listen to strategists out there, can't talk quite as tough because she would turn off her base. So is that the problem?
Well, it's more than risking turning off the base. Frankly, it is. Those policies would not only not work, but they'd be counterproductive. The ban on Muslims, for example, alienates our very important allies in the region. It makes it more difficult to build a coalition. It makes it more difficult to fight side by side when we need to with our Gulf allies. So, the Secretary has to make sure she's saying things that are good policy, that are going to help us win the war against ISIS. It's much easier to be reckless at times the way Donald Trump is. But you're going to see increasingly people in the military, as your story indicated, people with experience in foreign policy and national security come out and condemn what Trump is saying as being counterproductive. We're seeing that happen already. And I think as we see that happen more and more often from now to November, you'll see Secretary Clinton's lead over Donald Trump widen.
Okay, I want to get to some more numbers from this Quinnipiac poll because it's so fascinating to me because there are more contradictory numbers. Okay, here's another one. Voters think Mrs. Clinton is moral but less trustworthy than Donald Trump. Critics might say that's because of the email controversy and Hillary Clinton's evolving explanations. And this is what I mean about evolving explanations. This is what she said about the email controversy last week versus this week.
Just like previous secretaries of state, I used a personal email. Many people did. It was not at all unprecedented. I have turned over all of my emails. No one else can say that. I have been incredibly open about doing that. I will continue to be open.
I've said many times it was still a mistake, and if I could go back, I would do it differently. And I understand people may have concerns about this, but I hope voters look at the full picture of everything I've done in my career and the full threat posed by a Donald Trump presidency.
Why doesn't she just come out and say, no, you know what? Look, I made a mistake. I didn't turn all my emails over. I didn't preserve emails as I was required to do, and I'm sorry about that. Wouldn't that be a more effective explanation? Wouldn't people find her more trustworthy if she said those words?
I think she has said that she made a mistake. In fact, I think she's repeatedly said that she's made a mistake, and if she had to do it over again, she would not use a private email server for her official work. I'm not sure, frankly, what more she can do than the regret she's expressed about it. And for people who, for them, the email thing is the end-all, I don't think she's going to persuade them. But frankly, I think that's a very small number of people. The vast majority of the American people, I think, are concerned about their future, about, who is in a position to lead the country, who can deal with all the foreign policy and national security challenges that we face, who is better on the economy. I think people are going to go and vote on those issues. But, this is a continuing issue just by the nature of that you have multiple government inquiries into it. You have the private judicial watch, that right-wing group litigation. So it's going to keep coming back into the news, but I'm not sure that there's much more the Secretary can do aside from saying it was a mistake, but it has to be put in the context that other secretaries of state also made very similar mistakes.
All right. Okay, Congressman